getting hot outside, mostly from all the grills firing up. Summer grilling is upon us, and if you're looking for the perfect cuts to put on the grill this year, look no further, because Good Ranchers is the place to get American beef, chicken, and seafood this summer. They sell 100% American meat, and they ship it straight to your door. And right now, they're giving away 2 free 18-ounce prime center-cut ribeyes to every person that uses my code, DOINGGREAT. Yes, that's over 2 pounds of prime ribeye steaks just added to your order at no cost to you. You're welcome. With Father's Day coming up and all the summer events and holidays on the horizon, this is a perfect time to try a box of Good Ranchers. Your father, grandfather, you're going to be a father, right? Look at this guy. Don't you want to look like this guy? You eat steak, and everybody needs these ribeyes. You can make a one-time purchase or subscribe and save $25 on every box. Plus, like I said earlier, if you were listening, you'll get 2 free 18-ounce boneless ribeyes. I mean, these things are good. They're steakhouse quality. Other places would charge you well over $50, even $60 a steak to get ribeyes like these. But Good Ranchers, they're just giving them to you for free when you go to goodranchers.com/doinggreat. They're out of their ranching minds. This is not the time to wait. Claim your ribeyes today before they run out. Yes, this is a limited time stock item. First come, first serve, and you want to be first when it comes to Good Ranchers. They deliver the best American farms and ranches to your door. Make sure you take time today, right now. Do it right now. Please do it right now. Go to goodranchers.com/doinggreat or use my code DOINGGREAT at checkout to get your 2 free 18-ounce ribeyes. Start the summer off right with Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. And thank you guys, and welcome to I'm Doing Great, the podcast for all its grateful citizens out there. And I, your co-president, welcome you to another new episode.
Co-president?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're co-presidents.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified. Also go to doinggreat.locals.com, where we will go with our guests today a little bit later and do some more questions that only people on Locals are able to get. Get that laptop out of my shot right now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's still in there. Anyway, yeah, I guess, Gina, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest today? Oh, but before that, thank you. We have a new sponsor. We are a legitimate show, and we have legitimate people paying us legitimate money to read legitimate ads. We also love Good Ranchers. They're really cool people. We like what they're doing. You know, a lot of these places that are like beef made in America, guess what? It's not. It's from outside the country. It just says made in America. News. Fake news. Good Ranchers is real news. Okay? So go to Good Ranchers, buy a lot of meat. We're getting meat. We're going to eat a lot of the meat soon. And we have a fun video idea to do a cook-off.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned that to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yes. We have a guest.
We have a great guest. I don't even know how to introduce him. He's just a dude that I met online. That sounded really wrong. Not
Rando man I know from my past. Yeah.
No, we're Twitter buddies. I love his spicy takes. He's been a personal trainer for many years, self-taught. He's got some good stuff to say. AJAC, I don't even know what to call you. Alexander J. Cortez. I know you go by AJAC, Alexander.
My full name is Alexander Juan Antonio Cortez, but that's really long to say.
Yeah.
So like the sort of the Twitter pseudonym has become this AJAC.
AJAC.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
got a nice ring to it.
AJAC's, the cleaning stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Except AJAC. Yeah.
I wish it was like Mistolene. That's a good Spanish cleaning product.
Is it?
Mistolene hace feliz a tu nariz.
I think I saw that when I was living in Mexico.
No? Well, don't try it because it's chemicals. No. Oh, try to use it. Yeah. No, it's good. You can mop your floors with it. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I assumed as much.
Anyway, here we are with AJAC. I don't even know where to start with you because there's a lot of different topics. I know there's a lot of different things that we want to talk about. We were talking a lot about some stuff off camera, manosphere stuff, which was really funny.
What do you want to talk about? What's been on your mind lately?
Yeah, what's been going on with you lately?
Oh,
that's too far back for the mic to pick up.
Okay, over here.
Yeah, I'll correct it.
Yeah, where should we start? I mean, technically, I always start off with I am a personal trainer by trade, which I tend to be known for a lot of other things, but my actual profession is fitness.
Right.
Yeah, which is usually kind of boring.
Are you the guy that is the meme of the Chad? Is that you?
Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yes, why not?
Yes.
Because I'm going to put the picture. I'm going to put the picture up.
Yes.
That's you, right?
Yes.
I'm being serious. I thought it was him when he showed up.
That was created for me.
He turned around and was like, "Hey there," and I was like, "Whoa."
Yeah, he just grew his hair out since then.
Okay.
It does actually look a lot like you. I didn't even realize that before. Yeah. So you're our fitness dude. We haven't had a fitness dude on here yet, really, have we?
No, you're our fitness dude.
Oh gosh, we had Mark on, but he's not like fitness dude. He's more like lifestyle and growth mindset and all that.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into fitness?
So this is actually a mildly interesting story, perhaps. So I went to college. This is 2007, 2010, I was getting a very useless degree, as many people did in my generation. So a bachelor's of arts in dance performance and choreography, which has a negative market value, probably.
You're a lot bigger than me. I'd make fun of you for what you just said, but I'm not going to say it.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so my original career plan was that I want to be a ballet dancer. That didn't work out. I got really injured in college, really badly.
How?
So I had a severe hamstring tendon rupture on my left leg. So your hamstring attaches in 3 places to the bone. It's called the ischial tuberosity. So I tore off like 2 of the attachments. So I only have like half a hamstring on my left leg.
Dang.
Which I couldn't really dance after that because my left leg didn't work. I was like using a cane for a year. It was just very dysfunctional. And I realized also too, like when I was in college, this was kind of like a whole red pill experience of seeing the Great Recession happen. I realized that none of the adults knew anything about anything. It seemed very strange to me that you could have that big of an economic event occur, people losing their homes, this big disruption. Like there was no foresight. Like there had to be a process that led to this years before, right? So I was in college, like that's going on. I get this injury. I'm just sort of sitting a lot, just studying stuff. And I also realized too, I'm like, this degree is really not worth anything. Like this, college is like a sort of a pyramid scheme. Like you get everyone that I met that was in dance in the field academically, I'm like, you go to college to get a degree, to go back to college, to get another degree, and then go back to college again to teach people getting the degree who will then get another degree. Like it's just, it's quite literally this recirculating pyramid. So I didn't know what to do because I had no real job skills at all. I knew I didn't ever want to work a real job because I'm not easy to work with. And very unprofessional. And personal training seemed cool since you could work in a gym and I could wear gym clothes and you got a free gym membership. So I started doing that when I was 20 and I'm 33 now. So technically that's the only thing I've ever done. And that ended up, I was never passionate about it, but I was good at it. So, after like 2-3 years in, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep doing this. You don't need passion to succeed at something. You need skill. If you skill and if you get a return on investment, awesome. So I kept doing that. And then after so many years of training people in person, and I started writing articles in 2013 that got published, and I started like a writing career in fitness. And then in 2017, I decided to go all in, like my own business, working online since 10 years ago, having an online business individually was not a thing. It was like an online business seemed made up. Today having a personal brand,
totally normal.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, everyone kind of knows to do that. So this 2017, decided to go all in on that, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah.
So everything I do now is all digitally based. It's this fitness information product business fundamentally, and it's all built off of the following I've cultivated over the years. Yeah,
because when guys come to me and ask me questions about how they can get fit or bulk or whatever, I'm like, go to AJAC because what the fitness that I do is for women, and it's very different. Well, so I always direct them to you.
Here's a question. Okay, how did you find out about this guy?
I think we just I think I saw his tweets one day because there's I feel like there's a little group of whatever Twitter people that like share the kind of same thoughts, and we retweet each other's stuff, and we're just like Twitter buddies.
Do you remember the tweet?
No, I don't think so.
I remember following you. I don't know why it was.
Yeah,
The way Twitter works, it's a large network, obviously.
Yeah,
over hundreds of millions of users. But, despite a fall, anytime you get enough people together, they're going to organize into communities. So like within I would say like the right-leaning side of Twitter, there's this sort of, whatever you want to call it, like Twitter, new right, fitness, bro science, this term gets used a lot, like intellectual, political sphere, where everybody kind of knows each other.
Yeah.
Whether directly or, peripheral relationships. So.
Yeah, bro science is the thing I wanted to talk about because you have a doctorate in bro science. We have our first person with a doctorate here because libs, they like to dunk on.
I got that's a real doctorate.
Yeah,
real university.
Real doctorate. Did you know that?
Stanford University.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, bro science, because we've talked about like bro science before. Mike's been a little critical about bro science before.
What is give me an example of bro science?
I mean, bro science is like a lot of it I could be explaining it wrong. Self-taught, understanding like fitness, being strong. I don't know. You explain what bro science is.
So bro science, the actual origins, like the etymology of the term, it's started on message boards in like early 2000s, like on bodybuilding.com, which it basically refers to this practice of this individual people who are not clinically trained, not necessarily formally educated in science. You don't have like a biology degree, but you take it upon yourself to study to study science as you use it in the gym. So the term became like, oh, you're doing bro science. Now, whether your claims or whether what you believe is true, like that can be very debatable. But because bodybuilding, especially like a lot of fitness, is just experimental,
right?
Going back, centuries even. Like you're figuring things out as you go along. Like you can't. There's no way to do studies on many things because again, like you're just testing hypotheses,
right?
In an informal, not a laboratory setting. But from those experiments over the years, there's actually lots of things that bros quite literally have discovered that have later been proven to be true later on.
Oh,
they have been formally validated.
Like what's a good example of something like that?
Okay, so like easy example, let's say like for muscle growth, things that maybe seem very obvious. It's like how do muscles grow?
Right.
So like the bro theory for many years, it's like okay, you need to basically lift more weight, get stronger. Like there's some sort of muscular process that takes place that's rebuilding, and like that's true.
Right.
Like it seems weird that do you really need to study for that? I'm like, if you want to understand mechanistically, you kind of do.
Yeah.
Like that's true. Things, let's say like, protein take being good for muscle mass and embolism.
Right.
Seems really obvious, right? Like of course protein's good for you.
Right.
That's still debated even in the medical community. Like, protein's bad for your kidneys. It's not true, but
right.
It's still like a common belief. Bros have been eating high protein diets for centuries. Like that's how you help your body to build lean tissue. So things like that.
Also, like going out in the sun. Like going out in the sun is obviously good for you.
Oh, like sunning your balls.
Direct sunlight.
Kind of
I mean, yeah, sure that. But like direct sunlight's good for you.
Yeah.
And you used to post things like, I'm tanning for everyone's sins.
Yeah.
and so now you have these studies coming out. Oh, the sunlight is a good disinfectant and can kill pathogens. And we're like, yeah, duh. Like
it's like the sunlight thing. So it's a very common thing. They're like, don't ever go in the sun ever. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because biologically, like our bodies run a circadian cycle that's directly tied to light exposure.
Right.
So, a lot of the questions I have, like with studies now, studies that have been done in the past supposedly on sun exposure and like skin cancer, I'm like, what's the grade of exposure? Because if you never go in the sun ever, let's say you never go in the sun ever.
Right.
And then like each summer though, it's like, I'm gonna go out on the beach for 3 hours. I'm like,
don't do that.
That's gonna be like a poisonous dose of radiation essentially, because you haven't built up a tolerance to it. But if you look at sunlight as potentially being hormetic for health, where like in small doses, it's good for you. That's very different. But like, has that been factored into any of the research that's been done at all? Probably not.
So, regular science, called secular science, is
establishment science.
Academic science is running and trying to catch up to bro science. Basically, is that just like bro science? Is bro science leads the way, and then
we're trying to lead the curve. So
whoa.
So and like in the spirit of science, if you go back to like Aristotle, like there was sort of like three types of science. You have like the ability to hypothesize. You have the ability to just flat out experiment.
Right.
And then you have the ability to sort of just, like theorize.
Observe. And,
observe. So it's like, it's an observational process. It's a hypothetical process. It's like a journal theorizing process of just like, kind of just sit and just think of things that might make sense.
Let's see how many times he does
that. It's just thinking, right? Like just go think about shit.
It's going to become a muscle memory every time he leans back.
Think about shit, create a test for it, then go use it. But like, this is like my critique oftentimes of like the science and evidence-based community and fitness even. I'm like, most of the science that we use today was discovered by people who never had the formal scientific method of being able to double-blind test stuff.
Right.
They just tried things and saw what happened.
Yeah.
And if you do that enough times, like a pattern emerges.
Yeah.
Like you severely inhibit innovation if you need formal controls for everything that you do.
Right. Right. It validates you amongst your peers, though.
So you like ideally you want to combine the best of both worlds.
Right.
Like, all right, let's test stuff out. Let's see if it works, and then let's also maybe if we can put this into a controlled setting that's laboratory, clinical, like maybe we can do that too. But then same thing with a lot of medicine. Like a lot of modern medicine is just doctors that at a point in time were like, shit, let's just try this and see if it works. Anecdotal medicine. It's like, that worked. All right, well let's figure out why it worked later on.
Gotcha.
And also, people tend to forget that establishment science, they can be bought off. You can't buy off bros. You can't buy off bro science.
No, you can't. I mean, there's no money in buying off bros. Bros don't.
But like pre-workout, you just give them pre-workout.
You can to a degree. It's like, you can always like give, I guess, a guy free supplements.
Yeah, that's right.
But like no one has any financial incentive to really listen to us since bros are not taken seriously, obviously.
Yeah. Wait, so is my buddy's chocolate milk advice, is that kind of like bro science? Like chocolate milk?
No, that was actually from the dairy industry about 10 years ago. There was this big push by like literally like Big Dairy where they want to just market milk to like
as a way to bulk up
the fitness community. Well, I mean, okay, so I'll backtrack. Consuming dairy products, to consuming milk specifically as a way to put on weight, that's been around for thousands of years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got protein, it's got fat in it. It's just easy to consume. The dairy industry, this is over a decade ago, they did legitimately sponsor research they paid for that wanted to demonstrate that chocolate milk specifically is superior to like Gatorade, let's say. It was a very bad comparison. Like,
right.
This is not good science. Like chocolate milk is superior to Gatorade or something else for recovery.
Oh.
And they came up with this ratio of like, for every 1 gram of protein you consume, you want 3 grams of carbohydrates, something like that. And again, this is not based on any like good science data, anything.
Right.
Like, it's kind of been debunked now. But from those studies came, you should drink chocolate milk post-workout, which for calories, it's not bad. But post-training, typically, you don't want to consume things that are really high in fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because chocolate milk has a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, and yeah, it has protein in it. It just tends to digest really poorly.
Right.
Like, you won't go do a really hard workout and then start drinking chocolate milk.
Yeah, probably not good.
Whether it's good for you nutritionally, digestively, it tends not to go over well.
Right. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. So that recommendation kind of fell out of favor like so many years ago, but it still kind of pops up even now. It's like, hey, you heard about chocolate milk? I'm like,
Oh.
if you're hearing about it now, like you're clearly not like a bro science person. You're like
Gotcha.
10 years behind the curve of bro science.
Oh. Okay.
One thing I wanted to go back to, you say this a lot, you tweet about this a lot, and I think it's a great thing to talk about. You always advise against following your passion when it comes to being successful in life. And I think that is now something that's really popular. Right. It's a very popular, trendy narrative. Follow your passion, whatever you're passionate about, do this. And young people are told to follow their passion. Why is that a bad idea?
Passion is incredibly vague. So that was very much like 1990s. I remember that distinctly in school. It's kind of a contradictory message. It was like, you need to go to college, otherwise you're going to be poor and blue collar and stupid and you won't make enough money and everyone hates you and you're inferior. Like that was the message if you didn't go to college.
Really.
Like that was really the message.
Yeah.
Like only dumb, retarded people don't go to college.
Yes.
But then it was also like, you need to find your passion and that will make life like magically easier. But like what is being passionate about something? Like, is it a good feeling? Is it believing that you never have to work again? Like a lot of what we get sold, through like mainstream media is like it's sort of like the success, like happiness porn of like, I'll just some generic example of like, hey, I'm a billionaire and I've never worked a day in my life because I was passionate. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay? I guarantee you most people that are ultra successful, they work like dogs.
Yep.
And then you get to a point where you want to be known to mainstream media, you want a social following, and then you feed this bullshit of, I never really worked, or it didn't feel like work. If you discover what your passion is, like, I'm like, that's crap. Talk to anyone that's actually at that level. Everything's work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, what is passion then? Is it believing in what you're doing? Is it, like I said, is it happiness? Is it this warm, fuzzy feeling of, crystal energy, like chick porn of like, I'm passionate. I'm like, there's no way to really define it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've worked with many high performers over the course of my life, people that with legitimate like 8-9 figure net worths. I'm like, they all fucking worked.
Yeah.
Shit took work.
Yeah.
All of it. And yeah, they might get to a happy medium later on of like, well, I've made my money. Now I can go explore things that I never would have made money doing, but are just interesting to me. And then occasionally you do find those people, very occasionally, where, generic example, when they were 8 years old, they helped like a dog with a hurts leg and like, I always knew I want to be a veterinarian. It's like, that's great. Like, was veterinary school work? Well, yeah. But it was worth it. Like, but was it work? Like, was it something that required effort and fatigue and you had to, push yourself? Of course it was.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't think that's a good filter at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to define it. Everybody has a different definition depending upon who you talk to. And the way it gets sold, especially to young kids, it's this idea that you shouldn't have to do anything that's difficult or hard or challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you find that thing that, I don't know, sort of unlocks life for you, but also makes you money, then all your problems are solved.
Right.
It's like a Disney narrative. There's no real comprehensive expansion or any critical thinking to it. In my case, like, did I love fitness? No, but I was good at it. It's a subject I like learning about. And over time, it became, like very supremely satisfying. Of like, you know what? I have a business. It runs great. I'm able to help people effectively. Am I passionate about it now? Yeah. It took a few years, 5 years, 10 years later. I'm like, I wouldn't want to do anything else. But I built this my way. It was very specific. It was very concrete. It wasn't a feeling I had and I decided to just run with it. Like, I come from an artistic background of dance. Like, dancers are very passionate people. Definitely. No one that dances makes money from dancing. Everybody does something else because dancing pays you no dollars.
Yeah.
So you're waiting tables, you're working as a waitress, or whatever you got to do to make it. Acting is very similar. People love to act. Go to Hollywood. 99% of actors are waiting tables. They're at Starbucks.
Right.
They're valeting. They're doing something to pay the bills until hopefully they have that breakthrough moment where their passion finally deliver some coin to them. Mm-hmm. That's great. Like that's if you want to structure your life that way, that's great. Is that a long-term model for success? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and passion is a feeling. And I think even stepping back the broader conversation, we now live in this time where it's like your feelings are valid. Women are especially told that your feelings are valid. No, they're not always valid. Your feelings are not always valid. And so to base an entire life decision on a feeling like passion, I think is just very, very poor advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
If emotions are fleeting. I mean, women get sold way worse shit than men because women are more
Because
emotional
we fall
by default.
for it.
Yeah, it's easy to fall for.
Look at body positivity. Would you ever see a gross, fat guy with a beer belly on the cover of Men's Health?
Or maybe now
like
you
maybe.
would. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, we haven't. We've never seen it. It's always the women that fall for it because, well, women.
Ellen Page is on the cover of Esquire this month.
Gosh, I feel bad for her. I mean, I don't generally feel bad for trans people, but I feel bad for her for some reason. She's just, do you know what we're talking about? Mm-hmm. Juno. I liked Juno too. Juno was funny.
I liked her in Inception.
She was good in Inception too.
Is it Ellie now? Or
Elliot.
Elliot Page? Okay, Elliot
Yeah, and
Page.
she got like the fake abs and the jaw, and she looks very ill. She looks very emaciated.
Doesn't seem very healthy. We were talking about
very
this
healthy.
before. I think it was on the episode when our audio got cut off. But we were just talking about gender specifically and saying how, if people are saying it's a social construct, and if that's true, why would one need to change his or her physical appeance in order to justify that?
It's a contradictory philosophy. Like a lot of gender philosophy is like this weird sexual feminism offshoot of critical theory, like 1940s, 50s. Critical theory was originally more about critiquing society.
Yeah.
And then you get into like this like philosophical post-structural period in like 1960s, 70s where it becomes like, let's question everything until like it's reduced down to nothing. And then sexuality just kind of got thrown in with it. I'm not the first person to say this. Like Camille Paglia, who's a very famous like first wave, second wave feminist, makes this really good point that a lot of feminism today is from like 1970s. There's this push for women's rights, women's movements. It's like, all right, let's start like a woman department in the college. We're going to teach you about womaning. It's like women's studies.
Yeah.
And, but there was no real criteria for hiring anyone on through any objective filter. But like, how do you hire a woman professor to teach a woman history? Like this, we're just making up a subject. It's like,
right.
So let's just find a bunch of radical feminists and they're going to do it. And at the same time that was happening, there was also this push in the psychology community over the years it started with like declassify homosexuality as declassify as a mental illness, take that out the DSM, whatever. And then over the years it became, well, let's declassify trans
dysphoria.
Let's declassify gender dysphoria as mental illness and make it like an identity. Well, what's an identity? Just start making shit up.
But that identity needs to be affirmed by other people.
Affirmation, yeah, affirming, yeah,
affirming surgery, affirming therapy.
Oh, it's just the terms they use is just so.
Jordan Peterson got so pissed off. He's
Yeah,
like,
he did.
I'm not affirming anything. It's not my job.
That's a really good impression, actually.
Thank you.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah, but I mean, what you
getting
realize
better.
when you study this stuff on a deep level, like the effort, like needing to affirm, or even like the jargon that's used, like you create sort of these neologistic structures of language where like nobody knows what the fuck's being said at all. Because if we start like our own community of like whatever, some sort of like some geek community, it's like when like geeky communities where it's like you have your own language based upon the stuff you've read, based upon this whole sort of culture you've created,
right?
But then you superimpose it on the world at large. It's like, well, if you're misunderstanding me, it's your problem because you're ignorant,
Right,
and hateful. It's like,
yes,
yeah, and human beings generally are inclined towards being good. It's like this person's telling me I'm a bad person. I'm like, am I missing something here?
yeah.
And
Human beings don't like
so
being
it's
told
very
that.
easy to bully people with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, but then we've now seen it run amok where it's become like a social contagion. Yeah, and it also makes you realize too, where like when you look at it, it's like how's like every 1 in 4 girls like supposed to be trans now? I'm like, human beings.
Wait, is that the stat?
Yeah, it's like 1 in 5, 1 in 4.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Like, human beings are extremely irrational. Like we're not logical. We don't navigate reality with logic and reason. We just navigate reality a lot. Just for women, a lot of times it's emotion and feeling.
Whoa.
what our friends are doing.
Yeah, so like a tomboy 20 years ago, it's like I want to play with boys. Okay, now it's like, oh, you want your breast cut off? Maybe you're a boy. Do you want your identity affirmed? And then you have this whole industry that's grown around gender affirmation. And it's just everything multiplies on itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Abigail Schreier's book, Irreversible Damage, I recommend that to everybody. She really gets into why the trans agenda affects young girls, especially much more than boys. Yeah, and it's really, really sad. Like Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman, is I would say that's a great like entryway into looking at what's happening with the trans agenda. But Abigail Schreier's book is really good insight as to why it's particularly harming young girls.
It just seems so weird because I've seen a compilation of these like finished top surgeries about these girls who have had the double mastectomies and they're showing it off and being all proud of it. And I'm thinking to myself, are we really living in a society where this is A, being applauded, but B, where we're thinking that this is okay, where people, and a large group of people now, it's getting more popular, are mutilating their bodies, and people are applauding this because they think they feel a way, and that the only way that they can feel a way is if I feel the same way about it. And if I don't feel the same way about it, I'm a bigot. Because listen, if your gender is a social construct, well, you don't have to change anything.
Yeah, you definitely don't have to.
Just tell me. I feel like I'm a woman. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, here's a question for you about now that we're on to trans stuff. A lot of people they try to attribute this, the kind of like overtaking the trans agenda in our society. They relate it to the decline of masculinity and the absence of strong fathers. Do you see those connected?
I do. I mean, if you want to get very meta with it, like I'd like to get meta with stuff, but like masculinity, like as a metaphysical principle of life itself is basically it's order and discipline and structure.
Yes.
When you're operating in a society where you've removed both like the social values of being strong, disciplined, let's just say strong, disciplined, and like this, let's use order again. Strong, discipline, order. Let's go with those three. When I take those things away, we're like now being strong is sinful essentially, and like liberalist lunacy of like, well, if you're strong, that means someone else is weak and you made them feel bad. And then you take away order and having standards as well. If there's standards, that means someone inferior. We can't have standards anymore. And then you take away order itself. It's like, well, if we have organization and being on time and being expected to perform a certain way, that's all racism. That's structural post-colonial white man racism. Like, okay, let's just take away everything that makes basically society functional as like all of it, like all the qualities. Okay, they're all gone. What do you have left over? You have like emotionalism, feelings, whatever people's personal agendas are.
You have subjective experience.
Yeah, everything's subjective and everything just runs amok. There's no way to we can't distinguish between good and bad anymore. To even call something bad, well, it makes me feel bad if you say that's bad. This is the problem a lot of times people have with Christianity, which is it's their problem. It's not Christianity's problem, where it's like, what you're doing is evil. No, it's not. You're judging me. I'm like, well, I am judging you. What you're doing is evil. It's fundamentally bad for human nature. It's bad for human beings. Nothing can be bad ever. Like this is how liberalism operates. Nothing's bad. Nothing's evil. Nothing's shameful. And no matter what it is, it's good in some context. Like you can always.
If it's good for you,
if it's good for you, it's good for everything. I'm like it just falls apart. Like, that's how the world goes to hell fundamentally. Like that's hell. So where's masculinity fit into that? Well, that's like men fundamentally just not saying no to anything. You don't say no. You have no standards. You don't uphold strength yourself. You're not like a model of strength. Like we don't really have any heroes anymore. If you look at society today, like who do we look at as being like a heroic male figure? And have we ever? Like you could ask, well, have we ever? I'm like, you can go back, let's say 20, 30 years where the general model of, let's say, being an actor or a politician, JFK, where it's like, it's a strong, very masculine figure. Like, he was very popular for a reason, but that was 60 years ago now.
Patton.
Patton. Like, today we're so removed from World War II. We're so removed from conflict. Like life has gotten so fundamentally easy materially.
Right.
That we have no sense of the need for strength, of the need for order, of the need for discipline, of the need for having standards. Like we've really lost that as a society.
100%.
Yeah, so we've lost it on a social level. We've lost that on a personal, like it's the metaphysical level. It's not just about being a man. It's about, if I go to the DMV in California, I'm like, why does this take 3 hours? No, because the standard of competency has gotten lower and lower and lower and lower and lower over the years. Yes. So now, no matter what you interact with now, it's an institution, you expect it to go poorly for the most part. If it actually goes well, it's almost surprising. Like, wow, this actually runs well.
Right.
Holy shit.
Shocking.
I'm shocked that this person actually did their job in the way that I would like them to.
Totally.
Well, someone in my Q&A video, which I posted on Tuesday, you can go watch it. I did a nice little theme song. One of the questions was, why do you think there are so many weak men today? And I said, I'm not the arbiter of strong men and weak men. But what I can tell you is I think what it is like what AJAC said. He's like, life has gotten very easy. You don't necessarily have to do anything. You can work from home. You can get food delivered to you. You can look at porn, in the comfort of your own bedroom and not necessarily have to go out and meet a woman or anything like that. But those are just factors that I don't think are the most important. I think what's most important is that these men don't have a strong, masculine, manly figure in their lives that they can talk to in person or just be around. And I think strong men want to help. When they see like a weak little guy, they're like, I want to help that guy. Like a strong guy, a guy who's really comfortable in his masculinity. I don't think he's shrugging that guy. Look at that guy making fun. I think he's like, I want to make that guy like me.
Yeah.
I want to bring them under my wing.
Right.
And I don't think these guys have any of those people. That's
No.
why like I'm so attracted to the personality of like these special forces guys. Like I want to be that guy. And they're just like, yeah, dude, like we're going to work out together. We're going to get you like that's what I like.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah. Like, but that's what I want in my life. You know what I mean? Like these strong male figures that I think these people don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common thing I hear from guys who are younger, like Zoomer age, where it's like, okay, you've grown up in a world, especially the last 20 years, where anything that's traditionally masculine, it's toxic, right?
Right.
That's favorite. That was the favorite word
Right.
like a few years
Right.
ago. And even the APA, American Psychology Association, they had some guidelines they released like 2 years ago, which basically just described anything that's masculine behavior is psychologically damaging. So if like, being self-disciplined is damaging. If you lift weights, that's damaging. If you believe in, having high standards for yourself, that's damaging. If you are, someone that wants to, impose a system on something, that's damaging. Like in
Religious.
it just kept going. Like, one of my good friends is a psychologist. He issued this really long critique. He's like, this is just insane. Like basically, if you come into the office, it's like, well, what are you doing for your mental health? Oh, I'm lifting weights and waking up early. That's probably the patriarchy, like brainwashing you. You don't need to do that.
Well, who says this? Is this other guys saying this?
No,
It's
no,
like actual men?
No, I mean, but this is all the option. This is why academia in the United States has been ideologically seized.
Okay.
Yes.
This is why I don't take academia seriously. It's like
Just can't.
you can look at. I mean, this is not just social sciences. The social sciences of themselves are a lot of it's bullshit. But this is even for the hard, like some of the hard sciences, where the replication crisis in academia, referring to basically like studies. Okay, like you do a study, it's estimated by. I mean, this is not me making this up, but like this has been issued by multiple even like Harvard department heads, where like at least half of all studies that have ever been done are just bullshit.
Right.
It's just made up shit. Like you can't replicate them. It was a bad experiment. Just garbage. Psychology, especially, psychology is not a hard science. Psychology, you could argue psychology is not even a science at all because it doesn't really fit any hard criteria.
Philosophy, maybe?
It's philosophical.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. You can go with that for sure. But again, like half of all psychology studies, even very famous ones, like the prisoner experiment, were just made up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's numerous examples of psychology landmark studies that were like, oh, we've revealed human nature and human beings are evil and they abuse each other and this is how they react in situations. And then the study gets done, replicated a few times. Like, no, they don't. Like, you literally just made this experiment up yourself, published the results that you want to publish, and then now it's become like it's been established as fact, so to speak, when
Right.
in reality it was this contrived dog shit.
Yeah, who are the two guys that were conducting the fake studies? Do you remember that?
Oh, there's so many. There are so many. So the Stanford prison experiment I bring up because that's a very famous one. There's like
Good
an
movie.
HBO
Yeah.
series on that where supposedly if you turn people into prison guards and they'll torture each other and it's like a Joker asylum.
Yeah.
And then in reality, years later, it came out that those guys who were running the study basically incentivized the guards of like, torture this person. Like, I want to torture them. God damn it. Like
Yeah.
they had an outcome that they wanted
Okay.
for that study. And that one's very famous because it supposedly shows how evil human beings are if you give them power. Right. That was the idea.
Just to say the power's bad, authority's bad.
There was another movie with Peter Sarsgaard where he's a scientist and he makes a study where he has to get it's a controlled experiment where someone who's working with this group of scientists is sat in a room and he's answering questions. And the people who they're running the experiment on have to ask this person a question. And if they get the question wrong, they have to shock them. Mm-hmm. And the more, like, as the experiment goes on, the stronger the shocks get, and you're actually hurting these people. And they're saying, like, oh, you have to shock them. And they're saying, I can't do it. You say you have to. So it's kind of like that Stanford prison experiment where they're trying to make people torture people just to say that,
Yeah. I mean, even that, what you just described to me, like how would that qualify as science? Like, it's like, again, like if you're going to try to make something scientific, you generally want a clear division of outcome as to like, what am I actually looking at?
Right.
And how much am I involved in the process?
Yeah, there's coercion.
If I'm sitting there, it's like, oh, you have to shock this person. I'm like, I don't want to. Okay, so this person didn't want to shock them.
Right.
If I then tell you, like, no, you need to shock them, like, we're going to keep doing this until you shock them, I'm now interfering in the process.
Right.
So I can't claim that.
Well, they try to use, these are the rules that we have to follow for this experiment. So if you don't shock this person, you're not following the rules. And then they're like, oh, I'm not following the rules. Okay, I guess. So there's coercion involved. And I don't feel like that's science.
That doesn't qualify as an experiment. I mean, you could argue it could, but like that's really bad science.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Now you are now one of the mitigating factors in that experiment.
Right.
Do you do one-on-one coaching these days?
Very little, actually.
Yeah.
That's about like 2% of my business.
Not much. What is most of your business? Is it because you sell a lot of online courses?
Yeah, fitness product sales. Yes, online courses.
People love that.
Oh yeah. No, I mean this is what I realized years ago. Like when I was a teenage boy, right? I was in middle school, high school. I'd go to the drugstore. I'd open up like the muscle magazines. And I'd look for workouts. And this is something that millions of guys do. It's like, what's the workout, right? Like,
Yep.
what am I doing? And I realized, like, okay, those magazines now are kind of dead because it all moved online. But that's just such a basic human desire, instinct need of like, especially for men, of like, I want to know what the workout is. I want to know the exercise. I want to set the reps. Like, I just want the instructions. Give me the instructions now. So when I started, thinking of like, how could I create a business online? I worked for a couple of people who are bodybuilders, before I ever went into business for myself. And the majority of their business profitability, their sales were just from programs. Like there's millions upon millions of guys that just like, give me a plan to follow, give me a routine. So then when I started my own business, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to write workout programs essentially. And they're very detailed and lengthy. Like most of the programs around 30, 40 pages. Like they're going to an immense level of explanation.
Tailored specifically for the person?
Yeah, okay. Tailored specifically for the program itself. Like
right.
you'll understand exactly what you're doing with the program. Mm-hmm. But on the most basic level, it's a workout program. And they'll sell like crazy. And then what I found out, like if you give people a plan and they follow it, they get results. Like training is based upon scientific principles. So I get really good feedback from all those. Constantly, I get testimonials every single day from guys if they followed this program, that program, whatever, and lost body fat, gained muscle. I have guys who are, I have one kid in like my inner circle group now. He's been following me since he was like 13. He's like 18 now. He's put on like 40 pounds of muscle over the last 5 years.
Swole.
Looks good. It's like,
wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get on the program.
Men just need a plan. People just give people a plan who are intrinsically motivated. They follow it. They get the outcome they want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I always see him selling programs. I'm like, man, he must sell a fuck ton of those.
I do.
Yeah, yes. I knew it. Yeah, because the thing, I think you're right. That is actually lacking because I come from like the media world. I was a fitness editor, obviously for women's digital magazines, but like even a lot of my friends who are on the men's health side, there is a lack of just programs. Do this for this long, for this many reps, and that's it.
For women.
No, for men. I mean, for women too, but women need a little bit more than that. Women tend to require a little bit more coaching.
Women, it's a lot more psychological.
A lot more psychological. I mean, I joke with Jose all the time. I'm like, I become their therapist. Like they come to me and tell me their life problems because for women, food and diet is much more connected to emotions and their psyche and what's going on in their life emotionally, what's going on with their relationships.
Anything regarding women. Yeah.
Yeah. And because, women are also just generally more emotional eaters. And so for women, it requires a little bit more than this is your workout and this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to eat, whatever. They need a little bit of like help and guidance and, motivation. But when I see what the men need, I'm like, man, I bet those programs just sell like hotcakes.
Oh, they do.
It's exactly what they need.
It's a very easy business. I'm like, it's fundamentally the same thing I did when I was 15. I'm like selling to myself. I'm like, when I was 15, I stole the magazines. I didn't buy them, but like, I go to the drugstore. I'm like, I just want a plan. Give me a fucking workout. Like, it's like, oh, here's a cool workout.
Yeah.
And like in men today, it's the same thing. It's like whether you're 20 or 35 or 40 or 50, it's like, what do I do in the gym? I need a plan. So you find somebody you think is qualified. Like what's the plan? Yeah, and if it's designed with all the, like I said, the scientific principle stuff, which nobody really cares about, they just want to do something that works. It's like, all right, great, here you go. But I mean, the irony is when I was training clients in person, I worked with like majority women. I was really good at working with women. But then when I went online, that doesn't translate to being online unless you want to become like the male woman coach, which I didn't want to have to do because I know the way that you speak to women in person, I can be effective and I can be nice and sweet and like this talk to me and like,
but online, different.
Relax. No, online, I'm like, women care a lot about tone, right? Trying to convey tone online is quite difficult if you want to make your audience female, basically, especially if you're a guy. Versus guys is easy. I'd be like, listen, you fucking loser, fuck face, fat piece of shit. Go work out. You'll feel better. Be a fucking man. It's like, this guy told me to be a fucking man. Okay, I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah, you definitely can't say that to a
be like,
woman.
listen, fat bitch. Go fucking train. Goddamn, like that's not gonna work ever.
You've tried.
You just start crying. Like,
no, they do. Yeah. They do. I mean, even the things that I think are a bit softer way to say things, I say things like, being obese is going to ruin your life. And everything, literally everything, by every part of your life, by every measurable metric, gets better when you stop being fat. That is offensive to women. They find that to be deeply, deeply offensive. So I mean, not that my tone is that nice these days anyway, but I try to, you have to really not censor, but you have to change the way that you say things to women.
Yeah. I always joke about this because like if I do AMAs a lot on Instagram, I do AMAs on Twitter. And guys, you can be as mean as you want to them. Like this, men don't care.
Yeah.
Women, if they feel like you're being slightly unnice, like it doesn't happen too much anymore since I filter my audience. I'll still get the occasional message like that was really mean.
Mike gets that a lot too.
I've never had a guy message me that, unless I lit him up for something and it was like, you didn't have to go hard on me that, bro. I'm gonna block. Like, I'm not here to fucking.
Oh yes. So women react to the way that I speak to them, where it's just kind of plainly, they're just like, well, that was uncalled for.
Yeah, they say that wasn't nice.
Well, you came here.
Yikes.
You came here.
Yikes. They love yikes.
Liberal women fucking love yikes.
Oh
yikes.
I don't know why.
I like saying yikes and like, ooh. Or oof. Oof is the big one. Oof.
Yeah.
You know another spicy take that AJAC has, I told you about? He loves McDonald's.
Oh, yeah. You did tell me about this. Okay, I wanted to know about that because what I hear is you can if you're well, I mean, no. Yeah, it would make sense. Not overconsumption is bad, right? Is that the kind of take that he has? Overconsumption is bad. I still like it. I'll have it once in a while. What is it?
This is if you take a holistic perspective on this. So if you look at data and research and all the science shit that nobody's actually going to go do or pretend to care about, but they'll act like they want it. What ensures long-term health longevity? A few things having family relationships, having a job. Like, let's take that out. What physical things? Be normal body weight.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise daily or exercise as much as possible.
Being outside.
Don't be fat. So if you just don't do those three things, don't be fat, exercise, be normal weight, you should probably maximize your lifespan. Okay, so that's the premise. So we have something like McDonald's. The criticisms about, this is super processed and super low ingredients or low quality ingredients, I'm like, that's kind of bullshit.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. McDonald's ingredients, yes, they are mass produced, but McDonald's, because it is such it's the biggest spacey restaurant in the world, their supply chains and the quality of their ingredients is quite good.
Okay.
It might not be the most nutritionally dense in regards to like the eggs or the beef, whatever, but the quality is good because they feed literally billions of people a day. And if anything goes wrong at any point in that delivery process where people get sick, whatever, the PR for them is just nightmarish because everybody loves to pile on McDonald's as being the worst thing in the world.
Right.
So McDonald's quality controls are actually quite high. So I'm not worried about the quality of the food. Is it like, this is poisoning me?
Right.
So let's now look at the actual food itself. What basically fucks people with McDonald's? You have fries. Fries from anywhere, any place. Fries are carbohydrates, starch, it's deep fried.
Yes.
So it's a whole bunch of fat and a whole bunch of carbohydrate. There's no protein in that at all. They're very, very little, a tiny amount. That's not satiating.
Right.
The most unsatiating thing you can eat is fat and carbohydrates together.
Right.
You're never going to get full. The thermogenic value of it is way too low. So people consume a whole bunch of fries and they consume a whole bunch of soda.
Right. Okay.
Soda, it's just straight sugar.
Yeah.
Again, there's zero satiation. So if I go to McDonald's and I get, let's say, like a Big Mac or a quarter pounder, I can actually get around, let's say, 35, 40 grams of protein, about the same amount of fat, let's say 35 grams of fat, about 35 grams of carbs. It's actually a fairly even split of, let's just say 33 of
protein, fat, and
protein, fat, and carbs. Carbs, fat, protein, however you want to say it.
Right.
So calorically, it's actually a very reasonable meal. It's about, say, 650 calories. I'm 6'2", I'm 200-ish pounds. On a average day, I'm going to exercise at minimum an hour to up to 4 hours, depending upon like kind of what my life is at the time. Like yesterday, like yesterday, I went and got McDonald's post-training. Yesterday, I trained for about 3 hours. It was 2 hours of fight training, a half hour of cardio of running, ran for a half hour. And I also did about like 40-ish minutes of like lifting weights. Like it was 3 hours of exercise. Mm-hmm. So my caloric burn for that day yesterday was well over 3,000 calories. That meal from McDonald's of 2 sandwiches, which is about, let's say it came out to 1,400 calories, that's not even half of my calorie needs for that day. So what's that going to do to me that's bad? Mm-hmm. Now, you could make up a hypothetical and be like, well, it's poisoning you because some ingredient I'm going to pick out. And okay, I'm like, if I go look at my blood pressure, my triglycerides, my HDL, my LDL, all the basic biomarkers, everything's pristine. Perfect. Good as it can get. Stockton levels, 1,000. What is this doing to me that's bad?
Right.
Objectively.
Nothing.
It's
very little.
It becomes something.
Nothing,
it's
right.
like you're gonna have to make some shit up.
Right.
Now, but that's contextual, right? Now, but if you are an overweight person who just started exercising a week ago and you like to binge out on McNuggets, the comfort food, like, no, I wouldn't go to McDonald's. But the problem isn't McDonald's. The problem is your consumption habits.
Right.
Right.
If you want to make McDonald's healthier, like just don't have fries and don't have soda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like try to actually overeat like the sandwiches. You really can't. You could probably have 2 burgers and it's like, I'm full now.
Exactly.
That's how a meal's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And also the people who love to criticize McDonald's and say fast food is poison. It's like, this is my take. I may be wrong about this, but you think about fast food like McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. When people go to the grocery store and get like frozen food, or you can go to any number of restaurants, like you're telling me that McDonald's is really, really that much worse than like all the frozen food with the same seed oils and shit in it, and a lot of different restaurants. You have no idea what they put in their food. And I've worked in restaurants before. I mean, it's like, you have no idea what they put in there. And so you're telling me that McDonald's is like, is hell. It's like the worst thing that you could put into your body. And yet these are people who like drink wine all the time. And like they go all sorts of different restaurants. They eat frozen fruit from the grocery store. I'm like, what are you guys even talking about?
There's no, this is the thing with nutrition. Like very, very rarely does critical thinking truly get applied to this with nutrition. It becomes very emotional.
Yeah.
Very ideological.
Yeah.
Which like I get, like everything's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the especially now we're talking about like actually having a clear mind and like common sense is uncommon, right? But to your point, like you're right. Like most people when they like people will shit at McDonald's all the time, like but they're also overweight. I also know that you're drinking alcohol.
Yep.
I've had a very common problem with clients, like you drink too much wine. It's like that's a fucking meme now with women.
Yeah.
I'm a wino. I'm like, you're just a functional alcoholic.
Wine o'clock.
Yeah, wine o'clock. I'm like, so the number of things you're eating that are bad for you on a daily basis, it's a lot. Yeah, is McDonald's making that worse? Probably better, in fact, especially if you're under consuming protein.
Yeah. And then also I talk a lot about like the 85-15 rule. I mean, if you're at a good weight, if you exercise regularly, if you're hydrated, 85% of the time eat what you know you should, and then 15% of the time eat whatever you want. I mean, it's like it's not going to kill you. It's
How often are you eating McDonald's?
Right, 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay, yeah,
that's literally 15% of the time.
Yeah, honestly, even if you weren't like as healthy, that doesn't seem that bad. Well, 3 times a week, maybe twice a week. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just because
I just like that's the other thing. I like McDonald's.
Yeah,
like, I don't make apologies. Like I like McDonald's.
Yeah,
like could I go home and have that meal? I could.
So no fries, no soda ever.
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Yeah, or I could just go drive through after whatever the hell, and it's fucking delicious.
On the way here, I used to grab a couple McChickens.
When the 3 of us were driving back from St. Louis that one time, we stopped by McDonald's and I had their chicken nuggets. It'd been a while. But yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, people love to be self-righteous about nutrition. Mm-hmm. They love it. Like I posted the women love things like protein mug cake for dessert, right? So I posted like this recipe that they love that shit, right? And so it's like, it had to go in the microwave and some girl was like, that's so bad for you. You're radiating, it's radiation and you're going to kill yourself. And one of my followers went on her profile and she was like, I had all these nude pictures of herself. And she was like, okay, when you stop posting nude pictures of yourself online, maybe you can start judging people.
When you stop being a thought, then you can have an opinion.
Yeah, when you stop being a hoe, then you can talk about microwaves. But it's like people just love to get self-righteous. They love to say, you shouldn't eat that. That's so bad for you. That's going to kill you. And
I love the mug cakes, man.
Yeah, I see. I can't stand the protein like desserts. The reason why, not because they're bad for you, but like orthorexia is a real thing.
What's that?
So orthorexia is like it's an excess. It's an obsession with healthy food. Basically.
Okay.
So like so
it's a clinical thing. Like
actually.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
You have anorexia, which is undereating. You have obesity, which is overeating. You have orthorexia, where people like they do develop like legitimate just psychological neuroses, where everything has to be organic or farm sourced, or this can't have XYZ chemical in it. My wife was like that a little bit when I first met her, where she was consuming like Quest protein bars, like we eat a whole bag of broccoli, like we want to make protein cake something. And like I told her, I'm like, none of this is real food. Like the definition of processed food is basically it's any food that you take and you're reconstituting it from a natural form. Protein powder is actually...
It's a processed food.
Yeah,
I say it all the time, yeah.
A protein bar is a processed food.
Yeah.
A lot of like the pseudo-healthy shit, like the popcorn snacks or a protein, like those are extremely processed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like making like a protein cake dessert or wanting to have like, or even like having the whole bag of broccoli, I'm like, you don't need to eat 4 servings of broccoli. Yeah. Like vegetables are good for you, but like that's just not necessary.
That would hurt your belly too.
Yeah, exactly. Like she'd get, that's the thing. She'd get digestive distension like all the time from it. So I got her away from doing all that, just eating actual food, single ingredient. It's like, oh, like I didn't need to do all of that to be healthy. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I love to bake. Like I love baking. I love the kind of recipes that take like 4 hours in the kitchen. Yeah, and it's incredible how many women are like, I cannot believe that you're a health coach and you talk about weight loss and you're eating refined sugar and flour. And I'm like, you're fat. You're fat.
You have no opinion on this.
You're fat and you drink wine every night and you're miserable and you're mad because I make a beautiful, delicious pie for my family. Like it's just unbelievable.
I get that like Diet Coke. Like, so I like Diet Coke. just because I like how it tastes. Like,
Yeah.
it has no calories in it. But I get that all the time. Like, don't you know that's poisonous for you? But I'm like, go look at the research on aspartame. Like, aspartame as an ingredient has been one of the most studied food additives in existence. It's 100% safe. The only way that you get cancer consuming aspartame is if you were to consume literally like 40 pounds of aspartame daily for like 5 years. Like, if you actually go look at the actual research, like the rats, because it was never human studies, the rats that got cancer from aspartame
The rats.
were fed, well, no, they were fed the human equivalent of 20 to 40 pounds of aspartame every day for like 2 years, and they got tumors. I'm like, you could consume pounds of that cocaine. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no way to consume that much. That's why rodents, any studies that are done on rodents, they can approximate to human beings, but how a rat consumes something, the dosages that they use, it's not one-to-one.
No, right, exactly.
For obvious reasons, it's not one-to-one.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't worry about having the Diet Coke and the aspartame. That's so bad for you. Like, don't you, like, I can go get my bone density measured right now, and it's 3 times like the average. Like, I have exceptionally dense bones from lifting weights. I'm like, you're full of shit.
They're like, you should drink regular Coca-Cola instead of Diet
I know.
Coke.
Well, that's what I always crack up. Like, that's even worse than regular Coke. I'm like, how the fuck is it worse if it doesn't have calories? There's no calories.
They're like the crash. The crash is worse.
What crash? They're like, I can consume 50 grams of hyperdose corn syrup, or I could have liquid water, carbonated water with nothing in it. Water doesn't have calories.
Well, here's a question that I have, and this is going to be, hey babe, I know you're watching. So Carly was saying we were having breakfast, and she made these delicious banana pancakes, absolutely delicious. And I had them with maple syrup, and she's like, you know what? You should probably put some peanut butter on there. You want to get like a healthy fat, because all you just had was like carbs and sugar right now. And I was like, do I really need the fat? And she's like, yeah, you should have it. Is that a useful critique? You think, like, having like a bit of a, I mean, not putting her on the spot, but you probably should.
Contextual. I'm like, so like the pancakes,
especially for me, if I'm trying to bulk up.
It's predominantly carbohydrates. Yeah, that's fine. I'm like, the fat, protein isn't, sorry, take it back. Peanut butter does not have that much protein in it. It has some protein. Oftentimes, not want to say often, depending upon what you're eating, combining a fat source with a carbohydrate source that's, let's say, like, grain based, that can sometimes slow digestion down. So you're probably gonna feel more full.
This was no grains because I'm gluten free.
Oh,
yeah.
What'd you make it with? What, coconut flour, almond flour?
Maybe oat flour. Maybe. Yeah.
It's
or oats. I think like oats.
It's starchy carbohydrate. Okay, so starchy carbohydrate combined with the fat source. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna get more full.
Okay.
I mean, is there any like superlative health benefits that are like, oh wow? I'm like, it's fulfilling your macronutrient needs.
Right. But it also does seem sort of logical. Like, yeah, don't just have all this sugar. Like, add something to that can maybe like get you full, make you feel full.
Anytime you consume just carbohydrates, like, they're going to get absorbed really fast, which is fine. That's not like, insulin going up is not bad. Like, it's supposed to happen when you consume food. If it's going up, spiking chronically all over and over, like, okay, that's a different situation. But consuming straight carbohydrates, like, okay, I can see that. Like, your blood sugar will have to come down eventually. Yeah, peanut butter, it will slow down digestion, make you feel fuller.
Yeah.
It slows down the glucose. Sure, why not?
What were you saying about McDonald's again? Because you were like, I'm having a Mike on his way. He's writing down. So but you were saying was it the fat, protein, carb, like from the burgers? The ratio is there.
It's actually pretty good. Like, it's if you were to make a burger at home, it'd be about the same ratio.
Did you ever see that Bradley Cooper movie? What was it, Burnt? Where he's
Burnt. I like that movie.
At the Burger King, and he's like, you see this?
Yeah.
And what was it? A Whopper. He's like, this has, I guess, nutritionally, it is one of the best things that you can ever eat.
Yeah.
And he was talking about it. He was like, this is peasant food. This is peasant food the right way.
Yeah.
And he was like, just going, like, having this really like philosophical take on it. I'll show it to you so you for context later. But
I mean, this is like Mediterranean diet, for example, like supposedly the healthiest diet in the world. If you really dig into it, like, is that true? Whatever. But like the famous ratio for the Mediterranean diet is like, supposedly the Mediterranean people, whatever the hell it's supposed to mean, they consume like, again, 33, carbohydrates, fat, protein.
Right.
It's about, it's a triangular trifecta. It's relatively equal.
Is that how the Spartans look so good?
Yeah, I mean, the Spartans probably look good because they killed all the weak children.
That's right.
Spartans,
They tossed them off the mountain.
The Spartans. This is like a funny thing to me. Like, so the Spartans get upheld a lot as like a model of masculinity, right? It's like the Spartans, they were hardcore warriors,
and they're women too.
Yeah, like the women, like, go die in battle or don't come back. Like, if you actually look at the Spartan society, extremely unique, but like one of the most unreplicable models you ever met.
100% today. You couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit.
So like the men were like, a lot of the men were actually like homosexual.
Yep.
So they lived completely separate from the women.
Right.
The women were allowed to basically just fuck whoever they wanted, and the men's like,
For the purpose of male
they
heirs.
didn't care. It was just like, I have a wife. If you sleep with somebody else, oh my God, I don't care. Their whole economic model depended 100% on slavery. So for every one Spartan, there were like 3 to 4 slaves. So it's like a really cool warrior society. But then when you actually dig into it, I'm like, this is like one of the most weirdest gender situations imaginable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Spartan women get, it's almost like they get warrior status if they die giving birth, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
one of the things.
Correct. No, they can be buried, I think, or something like that. Yeah,
Okay,
with a warrior's funeral or something like that.
Something
but
like
I was
that.
reading something about the women, like they were just allowed to be promiscuous. It's almost a way that they were elevated in society if they were.
They didn't care. It was just like, because the men and women didn't interact anyways. Like the men had to retire at a certain age from like being a warrior, but the women were they're very autonomous. Like it was very sexually segregated.
Yeah.
So like if you're living in the barracks basically until you're 30 with your bro homo friends, and then maybe your wife's like with your slaves, it's like maybe the slaves are banging. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm with my bro homo friends. Like we're great. Everything's
Yeah.
good.
In the movie
I'm gonna
300,
go kill a whole bunch of people right now. Like yay.
yeah, they make fun of the Greeks, like go play with your little boys or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Spartans were.
Oh no,
Playing
the
with
Spartans
boys.
were the ones who were known for like the anal buggery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Here's a question that we ask every guest that's extremely important.
Yeah.
Is your wife your best friend?
No.
Okay. Settles it.
I knew AJAC was going to be on board.
My wife is my wife. Like, yeah, that's a special status. Like, I mean, like
If you were standing next to her and someone asked you that, would you answer the same way?
yeah,
Okay. See, yeah.
like I'm her husband. Like your best friend. I guess your best friend can be anyone that you want it to be. Like,
Right.
but like that modern model now of like your spouse. Like this is my best friend. I'm like, they're your wife or your husband. Like they're supposed to hold like a venerated position where how you know each other and speak to each other and act to each other is different from the way you would a really good friend. You know, the way she knows me is different from like my best friends that know me well. Like that, she's my wife. I feel like that just cheapens the relationship.
I got
Yeah.
another question for you before we get into the actual questions.
This is another
Go.
good one.
You're walking down the street. There's a guy walking his dog. Dog happens to be a pit bull. How do you feel about it?
I give a shit.
Okay. Good enough for me.
He's a pit bull
I'm a pit bull
apologist.
apologist.
Oh, okay.
So we have a lot of fans of the show who ignorantly hate pit bulls
People-
and
oh,
who.
gosh.
I love the anti-pit bull memes. You ever seen the ones where it's like pit bull like swims a mile to bite human child, something like
Yeah,
that?
those are so funny. Those are so
They're
funny.
hysterical.
They're really funny, man.
Yeah.
People love to send those to Mike.
They send them to
Oh,
me
really?
all the
All
time.
time? That's awesome.
Unsolicited pit bull
That's
memes.
awesome.
Really gets
like
them going.
I like the one with the guy behind the tree going like this. but
That's
it's
a
the
good
pit bull's
one.
Head when it's well, what was it like? FDA says like kids are able to. Oh God, I forget what kids are able to play outside or something like
Something
that.
like
It's the
that.
pit
And
bull.
pit bull's like,
Yeah,
no,
my thing is, and other people really haven't. I don't know if other guests they didn't really listen to what I said. I said a lot of you guys who are anti pit bull are ascribing human. She hears it all the time. Human characteristics and human logic and human thinking to dogs.
The anthropomorphication of animals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like do pit bulls? Do they see a child and they're like, hey, you know what time it is? I'm gonna go out and bite
I
the
got
shit out of
invited
that
to a
kid."
dog birthday party recently. I didn't get invited. Where we formerly lived, there was a dog park. My wife would bring our dog there.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other dog owners, they had like a golden retriever. They're like having a dog birthday party, which is like this is the stupidest,
wow, that's a thing.
Yeah.
stupidest fucking thing. But like so she's like, can you take the dog there because like I'm gone and like I want him to go socialize. So I took the dog to the park, dropped it off. And I realized there are all these people there with their dogs, and it's a birthday party. I'm like, I don't want to speak to any of you.
That's so
It's like,
weird.
you're the exact kind of person I don't want to be friends with.
Do they?
So-
Did the people who are hosting this party for their dog? Do they have kids?
No.
That's why.
But so I went and sat in the car.
Was it a pit bull though?
No, it was a golden retriever.
Oh, okay.
But
They're actually more aggressive than pit bulls when they do aggression studies.
Oh, really?
Golden retrievers are more aggressive than pit bulls. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yes, there is a dog temperament test. Not studies, but there's tests that they do for
I can
test
believe that.
aggression. Yeah. So pit bulls scored in the top 85 percentile of the least aggressive dogs in these temperament tests. So what they would do, they would take dogs on a leash and they would put things in the environment that would see like how amped up these dogs would get. And pit bulls were, pretty calm 85% of the time.
interesting.
So Chihuahuas, obviously bad temperament.
The
Always.
small dog's always the most aggressive.
Right,
We have
exactly,
a large
yeah.
breed dog, and it makes you realize like we have a German Shepherd. It's like close to 100 pounds. It makes you realize like, small dogs, because they're small, like they can misbehave, and it's cute.
Right,
It's like
yes,
it's jumping,
exactly.
it's biting.
Yeah.
It's not big enough to do damage.
Right,
If that's a
exactly.
larger animal, like oh god, like you'd have bodies on the
Imagine if
floor.
every pit bull, German Shepherd, and Rottweiler had the temperament of a Chihuahua. Not good.
No.
Those would be lethal animals running
Killing
around at all
machines.
times. Right, exactly. Hey, we're going to get into some real questions, but before we do that, we are going to go into another ad from our beautiful sponsors at Good Ranchers. Gina, hit that play button. Oh, Jesus. Gina, you ruined it. With Father's Day coming up and all the summer events, like I said before, it's the perfect time to try a box of Good Ranchers. Fathers, grandfathers, they're going to love these things. They love ribeyes. They want ribeyes. You can make a one-time purchase or subscribe, save $25 on every box. Plus, like I said earlier, you get 2 free 18-ounce boneless ribeyes. They're great. The quality of these things are awesome. You go to a restaurant, they charge you too much. Good Ranchers, good price, fair price, and they're literally giving them to you for free when you go to goodranchers.com/doinggreat. They're out of their ranching minds. Guys, go to Good Ranchers, put in our code, goodranchers.com/doinggreat, or just use our code, doinggreat. It's first come, first serve. You better get there. goodranchers.com/doinggreat, or use my code doinggreat at checkout to get your 2 free 18-ounce ribeyes. Start the summer off right with Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. I'm really good at reading those. I just want to say.
Well done. Nicely done, sir.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's get into some questions for AJAC.
Yeah, we really bullied people into giving good questions. Articulate your questions.
No thoughts.
No thoughts. Yeah.
Well, no thoughts and no thoughts.
No thoughts and no thoughts.
Okay, so basically I can ask you whatever. We didn't really screen them, but I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Armin Ha. The names you're going to hear, you're going to be like, these don't make any sense. What are basic diet mistake new people? Wait, what the hell? You guys, Gina said, structure these things, check your grammar. I understand it's a little box. You can't, use a lot of characters, but the less space you're able to use, just make it
A concise question.
right. Exactly.
Tighten it up.
What are basic diet mistakes new people make that are starting to work out?
Just ignorance. It's just lack of education. That's why I tell people, like, if you're starting to work out, it's like, oh, what do I eat? I'm like, I understand the question of like, you don't know what to eat, but a lot of this you could solve yourself through, you could still use Google, YouTube. Like there's search engines exist. If you don't know anything, if you don't know, like I always like to use the phrase, if you don't know shit about fuck, you should probably like look up like basic human nutrition, like what's protein, what's carbohydrates, what's fat, what foods have protein in them. Like I could obviously describe all those things, but like this is like a very like entry level, high school level of inquiry of you could do your own research.
Right.
You're probably gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You actually should do your own research.
Yeah, you really should. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I can recommend books and things and like, various people, but I'm like, you actually have to educate yourself in nutrition. If you don't know how calories work, you don't know how macros work, you don't know what foods even have in them. If you don't even know why you have to eat in the first place, which is like, what you actually ask people, like, why do you think you need food? I don't know. I'm like, because you die because your body's made of matter and you need to consume matter to stay living.
Yeah.
Like, so that you have to get that basic with people.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way. So yeah, self-education.
1-800-JAR-BEAR, frequent questioner in the I'm Doing Great Nation of Grateful Nation. Yep. Which historic and modern cultures do you believe had the best well-rounded view of strong physique? It's funny that we just talked about Spartans. Though.
Okay.
Not the gay Spartans.
I mean, for Western, let's just use Western civilization culture. The ancient Greeks have the most developed philosophical and practical system of aesthetics. Most of what we think about the body today, or like the terminology we use, comes from like the Greeks' way of defining it. But then also aesthetics are just universal to the structure of the universe itself. Like everything uses the same mathematical models. That doesn't change ever. So you could say ancient Greece. I mean, but like modern exercise culture is a relatively recent phenomenon. Like how we view the body today versus, so many hundreds of years ago. So I don't know that you could really make it like direct comparison. Like this culture was best.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, like, JFK in like 1960 wrote an article for Sports Illustrated of like the decline of like physical culture in the United States. This is 60 years ago.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. He wrote this big long article of like, we're becoming a weak nation and like we need to get stronger. And like,
really good.
This is
really?
Like,
yeah.
That's
60
that's 60 years ago. So this is, I mean, you can even go back to 1900s, like pre-World War II. And there's articles written by various like physical culturist authorities of the decline of like physical standards. This is in 1900.
Right.
Decline of physical standards. And, like the role of the industrialization, modern society has like become weaker and sickly. Like this is 100 years ago. It's the same problem.
Oh.
So this is not a new problem at all. Like being like, we're definitely the most exceptionally obese we've ever been, but being like sick and pale and, flabby and like that's That's been going on for at least a century or more.
Okay, so that's really new.
Yeah. So I mean, like the question though, I'm like, I don't think that has like a really good straight answer. Like it's not a very good question.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Sorry, Jar Bear.
Yeah, sorry,
this
Jar
is
Bear.
the first time you got burned.
I understand what you're asking, but like in context, like you have to view things like within their historicity or within their historical period.
Right.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Biblical Chad wants to know top 3 home gym pieces of equipment and why.
What do you know how to use?
Yeah.
Like I can tell where these questions are going to be going. Okay, so
I'll get off of that.
No, you're good. These questions are fine. Like I know people probably hate me because I always answer questions with questions. For a home gym, do you actually know how to work out? Because I could tell you, like, you go get a squat rack and a TRX and kettlebells, and I'm like, if you don't know how to use any of those things, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're going to be that person that has a Bowflex or the adjustable dumbbells or even a squat rack. I'm like, yeah, I bought all this shit from Rogue. I'm like, do you use it? No. Okay, so like, what do you know how to use? If you know how, if you like using a barbell and you know how to use that tool, go get the tools that you know how to implement.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know how to use any of them, hire a personal trainer and learn.
Yeah.
And then go build your home gym.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
That's a good answer. That's actually a very useful answer for me. Why do so many say BMI has been debunked? When speaking on fatness, many will resort to that. Andrea Post wants to know.
So BMI data is a lot of it's based on older data. So the premise of BMI, of what does it actually mean, is there's a BMI scale for men and there's a BMI scale for women. So these men and women are different, obviously. It compares your weight to your height. So for every inch of height, you should be so many pounds. Now the BMI scale, a lot of the data is fairly old data from a few decades ago, and people are legitimately larger today in height, not just in weight. So you could argue it's somewhat outdated, but it's not going to be precise, but it's generally accurate where if you don't exercise at all and you go look at your height, weight on a BMI chart and it's near like the overweight or obese range, like, yeah, there's a strong probability you're probably overweight. Now, if you factor in body composition and you factor in like activity level, like, okay, like, yeah, it could be that you could, like, technically I'm like slightly overweight on the BMI scale, but my body comp is perfectly healthy. It does not factor body comp. If you wanted to create a better scale, you would include body comp. But again, heuristically, it's useful, generally accurate. But, again, obesity movement, fat acceptance, everybody loves to hate on it where like you can be healthy any size. And in fitness pros especially, like there's this very self-righteous, like I'm fucking 220 and 6% body fat and 6'2", and like it says I'm obese, but I'm a fucking animal. I'm like, nobody gives a fuck about you. Okay, like if you are, again, like if you're in the 1% outlier group where you're super fit and muscular, like no shit, it doesn't apply to you.
Right.
Like duh, motherfucker, duh. Like you think you're making this like incredible point, duh. Like no, I believe for years I've found this, like this is a common thing in the fitness community where it's always men. It's always fucking men. It's always like they want to be alpha bros and they want to tell you their body fat and how buff they are. And like BMI doesn't apply to me. Fucking look at me. I'm like, no one gives a shit. No, like, duh. Like, like 2 brain cells. Like, is your IQ 1 point over 100? Like, fuck me. Okay. Anyway. So it's useful. That's my point.
Yeah. Most of the time it's useful.
Yeah. Most of the time it's useful.
I'm Christian_Houts. Do you eat raw liver and or eggs? Why or why not?
No. Raw liver. So again, I understand the fascination with raw liver. Liver King, dude who takes the most nattiest trend ever. I like Liver King, but like God, just say you're not natural. Fuck. Liver is great, super healthy, very nutrient dense, awesome. I don't care how it tastes.
Right. No,
so
same.
I don't eat it. And again, like I know all my blood work, like I'm perfectly healthy. Liver is very nutritious. Like, could it be a part of a healthy diet? 100%. Do you absolutely need it as a necessity? No, just it's personal preference.
Yeah.
Raw eggs? No. Again, like, could you drink raw eggs? Of course you can. Like, that's super. I know a lot of guys, it's like the whole personality now is like, I'm a raw egg drinker.
12 raw eggs a day.
Yeah, raw eggs.
Raw egg nationalism.
Yeah, like Vince Carano like made this point years ago, which he was wrong about. Like, raw eggs are not steroids. It's not equivalent to eating steroids. Yeah, like if you could even do that. Okay, like eggs are very nutritious, one of the best foods you can eat. If you want to have them raw, go ahead. If you don't have them raw, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Again, just the overall context of health, like it's personal preference.
See, I'll bring scrambled eggs and eat them on the show.
No, like maybe the term I like to use is like super physiological effects, where people want to believe in superfoods. Like to some degree, things like liver are extremely nutrient dense, but I'm like, is this going to, again, like do something for you health-wise that no other food could do, or some combination of foods? Not really. It's good to eat. Like eggs are great. Like, is having 6 raw eggs to a dozen raw eggs going to do something, like anything noticeable beyond having normal regular protein sources that are cooked?
Right.
Probably not. I mean, if you notice something, like run with it, right? I'm never going to tell somebody no if it's working. So no, I don't consume raw eggs or raw liver.
Caleb ONGK. How should I strengthen my bones? I have a chronic calcium deficiency. I'm 19, by the way.
Lift weights, and you probably need a supplement with calcium. That's very straightforward.
Okay, so we're gonna nix the ones about Jesus. I don't want to get into that.
That's so weird.
When Niston wants to know, when leaning out, are there any foods you recommend over others? Example, eat chicken instead of pork.
I mean, so leaning out is a familiar calorie equation. So a calorie deficit. I mean, this is probably the most common answer to every fat loss question ever. Like exercises, workouts, like you have to be in a calorie deficit. So how do you create that? Well, you have to know what you're eating. Something like pork, let's say it's higher fat. It's going to be, so higher fat content means higher calories. The reason why chicken oftentimes is preferred in the bodybuilding community, and everyone kind of knows it's fitness, because chicken is lower in fat compared to beef and pork. So oftentimes, if you are doing a legitimate cutting diet and you're using numbers, chicken would be a more preferable choice. Does that mean you couldn't use pork at all? No, you still could. There's pork loin, there's lean cuts of pork. But yeah, it's not about the food so much. It's just like, what's the calorie content? What are the macros of it? And then how does that fit into my overall deficit? You know, let's say if you're a woman and you're cutting on like 1,500 calories a day, you probably want to choose like fairly lean protein sources. If you're a guy and you're cutting on, let's say 2,500 calories, your fat content's fat intake's probably gonna be higher. So you could probably use fattier sources for protein potentially. It just that depends.
Right. Okay. Oh, interesting. Jazz Mandis wants to know, what makes an attractive woman besides her appearance, of course?
Her personality.
Gosh, but isn't the looks part of it?
Well, okay. Besides her appearance, what makes a woman attractive?
So I get asked this question a lot by my female following of like, literally that question, what makes a woman attractive? Be hot, be pretty, be beautiful. Like obviously, like if I really need to say that, like my God, like you need help. Beyond that though, what makes women attractive to men is that women, hopefully, God willing, are pleasant to be around. The reason why men like to interact with women who are sweet, who are kind, who are just nice girls, is they make you feel good. You're a nice girl, you're nice to talk to, I like talking to, like this feels good.
You can stay leaning back.
Yeah, let me hold it. Okay, there's a positive exchange. Yeah, I like to move a lot. There's a positive exchange of energy here, like this is an enjoyable interaction, right? Like removing the romantic and the sexual, like this is nice talking to you. If a woman is bitchy and standoffish and just, very masculine, like, talking to you just really doesn't feel good. Human interaction is an emotional experience, right? Yeah. So if you are a sweet girl and you know how to talk to people and you can make them feel good, you're probably going to be attractive on some level.
Yeah.
If you don't do any of those things, yes, you are not attractive. Despite even maybe being hot.
Right. Yeah.
Smile, ladies.
Smile.
Honestly, it's like, I don't know why women, they hate to hear, oh, you should smile. You should smile more. Be nice, be sweet. That's what women are.
That drives me crazy. I have a few family members that are really woke like that. We're like, this man told me to smile. I'm like, so a man looked at you and cared enough about your emotional, mental state of like, are you happy? Like, oh, you should smile. Like, what's wrong?
Such a nice thing to say.
I know, like, smile. Like, what's wrong?
That's so kind. Yeah. I mean, you got noticed by a man and he cares enough
If I caught you on a bad day though and I was like, hey, why don't you smile? Are you okay? You'd be like, fuck off.
I don't know. Maybe I would. Would I be like that, honey?
This is the thing. That tension of like that awkwardness, that's part of the fucking human experience.
Right.
I tell like the younger people asking about like dating and whatever, guy-girl questions. I'm like, human interaction is supposed to be awkward and sometimes there's misunderstanding. And like, you're not always going to nail everything perfectly with how you make someone feel and how you interpret them. Like, that's why we communicate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like that's the wrong thing to say. Like, oh, well.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, the modern.
Learn from it.
No, like the modern frame now is like, this man told me to smile at work. I'm like, you're fucking fired. Like, I'm going to go into HR right now. I'm like, we've indoctrinated like a whole generation of men, women where everything we say at any given time must be like desexualized, perfectly worded, can't offend any gender group identity ever, and nothing can be open to misinterpretation. But we're also supposed to like somehow speak to each other and be honest. You know, with a changing rule set that like literally changes by like the month of like what you can say, can't say, and you know, like in the times you can say, and also don't use these words, and like all this does is make communication fundamentally more confusing.
Right.
Now nobody knows what the fuck to say, do, think at all.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you allow women to enter the workforce en masse, you know?
And en masse.
En masse.
I think Vagabond Zero was, I don't know how she sent this question. It's not even a question. These have small character limits. That's why perfect grammar isn't always possible.
I read that one. Can we not?
Questions don't have to be cosmic.
We're all working with limitations, okay?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Do you feel good about yourself?
Let's do one more question, and then we're gonna move it to locals, okay, guys? What can we do? I don't know. This is just it's not really okay. Let's do this one.
Go for it.
Chris NG Nig. What's the worst injury you've ever seen in a gym?
Actually, let me think about this one. I've seen a few injuries, like the worst injury.
Ever seen like someone's arm snap while they're like probably, right?
I've seen a lot of rotator cuff tears. I've seen a lot of guys injure themselves on bench or like heavy shoulder pressing, but I don't know if that's like the worst injury. Probably like the wackiest one. Like I've never seen anyone cripple themselves or anything like that. Like lifting weights is actually a fairly safe activity.
Right.
I remember I had a friend of mine who he like snapped his pinky off because he dropped a plate on it.
Ooh.
He had to have it reattached. Like that was like a freaky, like what the hell? His plate slipped and somehow like crushed the finger off.
Yeah. That's pretty gnarly.
That is gnarly.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah, like I mean he had it reattached, but like, it took like a long time for that finger to work properly again.
Know a little bit about that?
I think the worst is like I've seen just a concussion.
Yeah,
That's
like
about
something
it.
slamming someone's head.
Well, it's like we were doing like med ball throws, and you have a partner probably this distance, and it's like the idea is that when you look at an NFL player run, their head is always directly over their pelvis, right? It's like this. It's this. You never. That's not how you run. So this drill was meant to understand like this rotation, like that's where power comes from. So you have a medicine ball. I mean, like, you know, every couple has like a 5, 10, 15 pound, whatever. And these dudes had like maybe a 15 pound med ball, and the guy just had bad aim. He goes, and right in Razi's face, he knows Razi, and Razi had a concussion for like a little while after that. I mean, not like he was taken in the hospital. It was a minor concussion that the effects lasted for a while after that. So I don't recommend doing that at home.
Here's a personal question, and when I say personal, I mean from me. Is it better to work out before or after one eats?
It doesn't matter. Honestly.
Doesn't matter?
So this doesn't matter.
It's personal preference.
I've noticed that I felt different at different times.
This is a very common trope in fitness. Like it depends. That does depend. If you are doing like the training fasted, you know, like to be in a fasted state takes actually around 20 hours. But like let's say you're just working out, you haven't eaten anything yet.
Right.
Okay, so potentially depending upon the workout that you do, if you decide I'm going to go for a run for an hour, I'm like, you could probably have lower energy levels.
Yeah.
Running does burn more calories than lifting. On an hourly basis. If you go to lift for 45 minutes, maybe you'd notice, maybe you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Some people, I've had clients where I've known lifters, powerlifters, bodybuilders, like they are very preferential. Like they want to eat like 5 meals before they train. I had a friend like that. Like she wanted to train at the end of the day and have eaten like 400 times before she went to train. He's like, that's when she felt best, right?
Yeah.
Like that was just very particular.
Right.
Then I also know guys where first thing in the morning, they wake up like military. It's just like,
right.
I'm gonna go for a run, I'm gonna go lift, and then I'm gonna eat at like 8 a.m. after waking up at like 4:35. It's like, they're fine. Like I personally don't eat before I ever work out. Usually.
Okay. Yeah.
If I would train in the morning, I'd go to the gym. My schedule's different now, but like I'd wake up at 6:30, go train from 7 to 10:30, like over 3 hours. And then I'd eat my first meal around 12.
Yeah.
I felt fine.
Yeah, that's what I ate. I had breakfast, and then 10 minutes later, I was like, I'm going to go work out. And then it started with like cardio. And after, I was like, oh, geez, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you do that too close together,
right, yeah.
You need at least an hour.
Not smart. At least an hour. Yeah. Don't go into the pool after you eat.
You excited to be a dad?
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited for you. How's your wife feeling?
She feels fine. Honestly, it's been the easiest pregnancy.
That's great.
You know what the biggest lies? The biggest lie is you're not going to sleep, man. You won't. I will.
Well, yeah, that's how it works biologically. That's how it's
the guys will get guys out there. You will sleep. Don't worry about it. The person you have to feel bad for is your wife.
Yeah, because that's
those are the ones who do not
I'm
sleep.
not concerned about that at all. Like we have our family living with us. I'm like,
That's the way to do it. My parents moved in with us last year.
Yeah,
It's a
no,
game
like
changer.
my parents are with us right now. Like her mom, she has a sister, brother. I'm like, I'm not concerned of like, oh my god, it's just the two of us. And like we're supposed to like,
Yeah.
we're good.
That's how it should be
We're good. We got
anyway.
help.
You need family. Yeah, you guys are going to be
Definitely. Well, for those of you who don't have help, you have a sympathetic person here with you because that's how we were. We didn't have help, and it was our first kid. But that passes.
great. Yeah.
Now we're in the phase where
turned out pretty good.
Turned out really great. We're just in the phase now where I yell at you for everything. Not I do, but she does. I yell at you.
She yells at you for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, is she sassy?
Oh, she's sassy.
Yeah.
She has her abizu. It's her pacifier. Abizu. She's given a French name. I don't know
Abizu?
what it means, but it's to a pacifier.
Okay, that's cute.
Yeah. Abizu.
Abizu.
Yeah.
Well,
Guess what we're going to do now?
we're going to go to locals, doinggreat.locals.com. Thank you all for being here, citizens of the Grateful Nation. Hope you enjoyed AJAC. Where can everybody find you?
Twitter is obviously the most likely place. So AJA_Cortez on Twitter. Instagram's the same. Website, cortez.site. So just use Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah.
He looks like my friend Mitch. I'm going to show you a picture of my friend Mitch.
Is your Mitch the Chad meme guy?
No, just wait. Just wait. I'm going to show you this.
Is he?
Okay, guys. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.